The Kraxan warship emerged from hyperspace like a predator surfacing from dark waters. Its crystalline hull refracted starlight in mesmerizing patterns, a beautiful facade masking the deadliest military force in the known galaxy. Supreme Commander Vex stood on the bridge, his four eyes narrowing as they focused on the small vessel that had triggered their long-range sensors. Analysis, he commanded, his voice carrying the weight of 3 centuries of military victories. Single vessel, unknown configuration, his sensor officer reported. Primitive fusion drive signature. No apparent weapon systems that match our database. Life signs detected. Carbon-based organisms. Vex's upper lip curled in what passed for amusement among his species. The Kraxan Empire had subjugated 17 spacefaring civilizations in the past millennium, each one falling before their superior technology and methodical military doctrine. This lone ship, barely worthy of notice, had wandered too close to their expansion corridor. But something about this vessel bothered him. Its design was unlike anything in their extensive database of conquered species. The hull configuration suggested an emphasis on sensors and research equipment rather than offensive capabilities. Yet it had ventured this far into dangerous space without an escort. Establish communication, Vex ordered. Protocol demanded they offer surrender before elimination. It was a formality he had performed countless times. The response came quickly, too quickly for a primitive species. The human vessel's captain appeared on their main display, a female with dark skin and sharp features. She showed no sign of fear or surprise at the sight of the Kraxan warship. "This is Captain Maya Rodriguez of the Earth science vessel Copernicus," she announced calmly. "We are conducting peaceful research in international space as recognized by the Galactic Concordat." Vex felt his secondary hearts skip a beat. The Galactic Concordat. This species shouldn't even know it existed. The Kraxan had carefully isolated each civilization they conquered, ensuring none knew of the others until it was too late. "Your presence here violates Kraxan sovereign territory," he replied, following the script that had worked so many times before. "Surrender your vessel for inspection, or face immediate destruction." Captain Rodriguez's expression didn't change. "We respectfully disagree with your territorial claim, Commander. We are operating under Article 7 of the Concordat, which guarantees free passage for scientific vessels in disputed regions." Vex's tactical officer shifted uncomfortably. "Supreme Commander, their shield configuration. It's unlike anything we've encountered. I can't get a clear reading on their defensive capabilities." "Impossible," Vex snapped. "They're using fusion drives. Their technology is centuries behind ours." He turned back to the display. "You have 30 seconds to power down your systems and prepare for boarding." Rodriguez glanced off-screen for a moment, then returned her gaze to the camera. "Commander, I strongly advise against hostile action. We are a civilian vessel, but we are not defenseless." The warning in her voice was clear, but Vex had heard such empty threats before. He gave the signal to his weapons officer. A burst of plasma fire erupted from the Kraxan warship's primary cannon, enough energy to vaporize a vessel twice the size of the Copernicus. What happened next would be debated in Kraxan military academies for generations to come. The human vessel didn't attempt to evade. Instead, the plasma burst seemed to bend around it, like water flowing around a stone. A field of shimmering energy rippled across its hull, absorbing and dispersing the attack with impossible efficiency. "Final warning," Rodriguez stated flatly. "Withdraw your vessel, or we will be forced to demonstrate our defensive capabilities." Vex's rage overwhelmed his curiosity. "All weapons, fire," he roared. The Kraxan warship unleashed its full arsenal, enough firepower to crack a small moon. The Copernicus vanished. Not destroyed, vanished. One moment it was there. The next it simply ceased to exist on their sensors. Vex barely had time to process this impossibility before alarms screamed across his bridge. Something was interfacing with their systems, bypassing security protocols that were supposed to be unbreakable. Multiple quantum signatures detected. His tactical officer shouted. "There, They're inside our shields. The human vessel reappeared, but not where it had been. Somehow it was now beneath them, so close that Vex could see individual panels on its hull through the bridge viewport. A soft blue glow emanated from recessed ports along its length. Fascinating. Rodriguez's voice came through their comms. Your computational architecture is more vulnerable to quantum intrusion than we expected. I do hope this demonstration will be sufficient to encourage a diplomatic solution. Vex stared in horror as his ship's systems began shutting down one by one. Weapons, engines, life support, all disabled with surgical precision. The impossible truth dawned on him. They hadn't stumbled upon a primitive civilization. They had attacked an advanced scout of a species far more technologically sophisticated than the Kraxan Empire. "What are you?" he demanded. "We're human," Rodriguez replied simply. "And you should know that this encounter has been transmitted in real time to our defense network. A flotilla of our warships is already en route. I suggest you use this time to consider the benefits of peaceful coexistence." As if to emphasize her point, the Copernicus's blue glow intensified. Vex's bridge crew watched in stunned silence as their weapon systems began to disassemble themselves at the molecular level, transformed into inert matter by forces they couldn't begin to comprehend. The human captain's final words would haunt Vex for the rest of his life. "Welcome to the galaxy, Commander. Humanity looks forward to teaching you a better way." When the Kraxan War Council received Vex's report, they dismissed it as the ravings of a failed commander. Surely no species could possess such technology while maintaining such a low profile. They would soon learn, as so many others had throughout history, that underestimating humanity was a fatal mistake. The real war was about to begin. The Terran Defense Council chamber hummed with nervous energy as footage of the Copernicus encounter played on the massive holographic display. Admiral James Chen watched the faces of his fellow council members, noting their reactions to humanity's first official contact with the Kraxan Empire. "Captain Rodriguez performed admirably," he stated, breaking the tense silence. "The Valkyrie protocol worked exactly as designed." Dr. Elena Santos, head of quantum research, stepped forward. Her dark eyes reflected the blue glow of simulation data streaming across her neural interface. "The Kraxan's technological base is impressive, but fundamentally flawed. They've built their entire civilization on linear advancement. Bigger ships, stronger weapons, harder shields. They never made the quantum leap." "And we did," Chen finished. He gestured, and the display shifted to show a network of interconnected nodes spreading across known space. "For 30 years, we've seeded every sector with quantum resonators disguised as debris or natural phenomena. The Valkyrie protocol isn't just a weapon. It's an entire parallel dimension of warfare." The Council's civilian representative, Sarah Mitchell, frowned. "Will they retaliate?" "Of course," Chen replied. "Their entire empire is built on military supremacy. They can't allow this humiliation to stand. But that's exactly what we've been preparing for." The display changed again, showing a sleek vessel unlike anything in humanity's public fleet. The FSS Nightingale, first of the Ghost-class quantum ships, represented decades of secret development. Its hull was composed of metamaterials that could phase between normal space and quantum states, making it effectively invisible to conventional sensors. "The Copernicus was a test," Chen continued. "Now we activate the full network. Every human ship, every colony, every outpost. They're all connected through quantum entanglement. The Kraxan think they're attacking a primitive civilization. They're actually stepping into humanity's web." Dr. Santos pulled up another simulation. "We've analyzed their attack patterns across 17 conquered species. The Kraxan always followed the same strategy. Overwhelming force applied to military and industrial centers. They've never faced an enemy that could simply step aside." The council chamber's atmosphere shifted from tension to calculated anticipation. This was the moment humanity had been preparing for since discovering the first signs of the Kraxan Empire's expansion. "What about the other spacefaring races?" Mitchell asked. the ones who've already fallen to the Kraxen. Chen's expression hardened. Liberation is part of the plan. Each conquered species has been subjected to systematic suppression of technological advancement. But we've been watching, waiting, and secretly preparing them for resistance. The holographic display showed 17 worlds, each marked with a pulsing quantum signature. We've spent years placing dormant quantum seeds within their occupied territories. When we trigger the Valkyrie protocol at full power, it won't just defend human space. It will give every subjugated race the tools they need to fight back. Dr. Santos stepped closer to the display, her fingers dancing through the holographic data. The Kraxen's entire military doctrine is based on predictability and control. Their ships are powerful but rigid in their responses. Our quantum technology allows us to rewrite the rules of engagement in real time. They won't just be fighting us. They'll be fighting physics itself. An alert flashed across the display. Chen's neural interface pinged with urgent data. Multiple Kraxen battle groups detected entering human space. At least 30 capital ships, supported by over 100 escorts. The council members straightened in their seats. This was the moment they had planned for, the culmination of decades of preparation and sacrifice. Activate the Nightingale, Chen ordered. Alert all quantum-enabled vessels. Initiate the Valkyrie protocol at full strength. He turned to face the council. Ladies and gentlemen, humanity has hidden in the shadows long enough. It's time to show the galaxy what we can really do. Across human space, hidden quantum resonators began to pulse with energy. The web of entangled particles that humanity had painstakingly woven through the fabric of space-time came alive. On countless worlds occupied by the Kraxen, dormant technologies stirred, waiting for the signal to awaken. The Kraxen fleet approached with the same arrogant confidence that had won them 17 wars. Their sensors showed primitive human vessels fleeing in terror, their colony scrambling to mount a defense. Everything was proceeding according to their tactical doctrine. They never saw the quantum storm coming. The first sign that something was wrong came when their fleet formations began to dissolve. Ships that should have been maintaining perfect military spacing suddenly found themselves hundreds of kilometers out of position. Weapons locks failed as target coordinates shifted between normal space and quantum states. The FSS Nightingale slipped between their battle lines like a ghost, its quantum drives bending reality around it. Where it passed, Kraxen weapons turned to inert matter, shields collapsed, and communication systems fell silent. The empire that had never known defeat was about to learn a harsh lesson. Humanity hadn't been hiding out of fear. They had been hiding because they were too powerful to reveal themselves before the right moment. The storm breaks. Captain Marcus Zhang stood on the bridge of the FSS Nightingale, watching reality bend around his ship. The quantum drive hummed at frequencies that shouldn't exist in normal space, creating ripples in the fabric of the universe itself. His crew worked with practiced precision, their neural interfaces connecting them directly to the ship's quantum systems. Multiple Kraxen signatures detected. His tactical officer, Lieutenant Sarah O'Neill, reported. They're trying to establish a containment grid around the Arcturus colony. Zhang allowed himself a small smile. The Kraxen were following their standard playbook, the same tactics they used to crush 17 other civilizations. But this time, they were playing exactly into humanity's hands. Execute Pattern Omega, he ordered. Alert the quantum network. It's time to show them what asymmetric warfare really means. The Nightingale's quantum core pulsed, sending waves of information through the hidden network humanity had spent decades building. Across the battlefield, dormant quantum seeds awakened. The very space around the Kraxen fleet began to change. Supreme Commander Vex, now in command of the entire invasion force, watched in growing horror as his perfectly organized fleet began to fall into chaos. Ships that should have been maintaining formation suddenly found themselves hundreds of kilometers off position. Weapons that could crack planets refused to lock onto targets that seemed to exist in multiple places at once. Impossible, he snarled, watching another squadron lose coherence. Their technology can't be this advanced. They're using fusion drives. His sensor officer's voice trembled. Sir, we're detecting quantum fluctuations throughout the entire sector. Our targeting systems can't compensate. It's as if reality itself is fighting against us. The truth was even more terrifying. Humanity hadn't just developed better weapons. They'd created an entirely new form of warfare. The quantum network allowed them to manipulate the fundamental forces of the universe in ways the Kraxan had never imagined possible. John watched as the first phase of their counterattack unfolded. The Nightingale's quantum weapons didn't destroy Kraxan ships. They transformed them. Crystalline hulls that had withstood the forces of supernovas were rendered into harmless elements. Weapon systems capable of devastating entire continents dissolved into their component atoms. But the real masterstroke was happening on a much larger scale. Every human colony the Kraxan tried to attack revealed itself to be protected by quantum fields that made conventional warfare impossible. Weapons fire passed through targets that weren't really there, while actual human settlements remained safely phased in quantum space. Sir, O'Neill reported, the Valkyrie protocol is showing green across all sectors. The quantum resonance cascade is ready. Zhang took a deep breath. This was the moment they had planned for. The culmination of humanity's greatest scientific achievement. Execute final phase, he ordered. Across known space, the quantum network activated at full power. The fabric of reality shimmered as thousands of quantum nodes synchronized. On 17 occupied worlds, dormant technologies awakened, giving the Kraxan's former victims the tools they needed to fight back. Vex watched helplessly as his invasion force was systematically dismantled. Ships that had conquered entire civilizations were rendered impotent by an enemy they couldn't even properly detect. The Kraxan Empire had always relied on overwhelming force, but how do you overwhelm an enemy that can step outside the normal laws of physics? Full retreat, he finally ordered, his pride shattering like his fleet's crystalline hulls. All ships, withdraw to. His command was cut short as the Nightingale phased into existence directly in front of his flagship. Zhang's voice came through on all frequencies, carried by the quantum network itself. The retreat option is no longer available, Commander, Zhang stated calmly. Your empire's days of conquest are over. Humanity has watched you subjugate and oppress other species for too long. We could have revealed ourselves sooner, could have stopped you years ago. But we waited, planned, and prepared until we could not just defeat you, but free every world you've conquered. The quantum cascade reached its peak. Across Kraxan-occupied space, their military installations began to fade from reality, shifted into a quantum state where they could no longer threaten anyone. The empire that had seemed invincible was being undone, not by brute force, but by the clever application of superior science. Your warriors speak of honor in combat, Zhang continued, but there is no honor in bullying those weaker than yourself. Today, humanity teaches the Kraxan Empire a lesson in true strength, the strength to protect others, to lift up the fallen, and to use power responsibly. As the last of his fleet's weapons dissolved into quantum foam, Vex finally understood. Humanity hadn't been afraid of the Kraxan Empire. They had simply been waiting, watching, and preparing for the perfect moment to reshape the galaxy into something better. Liberation's dawn. On the occupied world of Nexus Prime, former home of the Exari people, something extraordinary was happening. The quantum seeds humanity had planted years ago were blooming, awakening dormant technologies that the Kraxan had never detected. Across the planet's surface, crystalline control towers, symbols of Kraxan dominance, began to flicker and fade. Dr. Elena Santos stood in the Terran Defense Council's Strategic Command Center, monitoring the cascade of liberation spreading across 17 worlds. Her neural interface hummed with data streams from the quantum network, each pulse representing another blow against the Empire's control. The Exari resistance is mobilizing, she reported, her voice tight with emotion. Their underground tech labs are coming online. Everything we secretly provided them over the past decade. It's all activating simultaneously. Admiral Chen nodded, watching the strategic display as points of light representing Kraxan control centers winked out one by one. And the other species? The same, Santos confirmed. The Viridians, the Skith, the Myriad Collective, all of them are rising up. The quantum technology we smuggled to their resistance movements is giving them the edge they need. The plan had been breathtaking in its scope and audacity. While the Kraxan focused on obvious military threats, humanity had waged a different kind of war. They had sent anthropologists, engineers, and quantum physicists to live among the conquered peoples, posing as traders and refugees. These agents had slowly, carefully, prepared the ground for this moment. On the holographic display, a new signal appeared. A transmission from the FSS Nightingale. Captain Zheng's face materialized, his expression grim but satisfied. Phase 4 is complete. The Kraxan fleet is neutralized, and their ground forces are cut off from reinforcement. But we're detecting something unexpected in their communication patterns. The display shifted, showing streams of data flowing from the Kraxan homeworld. Admiral Chen leaned forward, his cybernetic eyes scanning the information. Their civilization is fracturing, he realized. The military hardliners are losing control. It made sense. The Kraxan Empire had built its society on the premise of absolute military superiority. Now that their weapons had been rendered useless by human quantum technology, the very foundation of their culture was crumbling. We're receiving transmissions from multiple Kraxan worlds, Santos reported. Their civilian leadership is requesting direct communication. They're asking for guidance. This was the moment humanity had truly been preparing for. Not just the defeat of an empire, but the rehabilitation of an entire species. The quantum network that had dismantled the Kraxan war machine could also be used to help rebuild their civilization along more peaceful lines. Send the signal, Chen ordered. Activate the knowledge archives. Across Kraxan space, quantum nodes began transmitting data packages that humanity had prepared years in advance. Scientific knowledge, philosophical texts, historical records of peaceful cooperation between species, everything the Empire's military leadership had suppressed. On Nexus Prime, Exari resistance leader Kexri stood in the ruins of a Kraxan control center, watching in amazement as ancient systems of their own design reactivated. The quantum seeds had not only disabled Kraxan technology, but had restored access to their own cultural heritage. Your people knew, she said to the human advisor who had spent years helping them prepare, posing as a simple merchant. You knew all along that this day would come. The advisor, Dr. James Martinez, nodded. Humanity learned long ago that true strength lies not in the ability to dominate others, but in the wisdom to know when and how to use power. We could have crushed the Kraxan Empire the moment we discovered them, but that would have made us no better than they were. The quantum network pulsed again, this time carrying messages of hope and reconciliation. On 17 liberated worlds, former slaves began the process of rebuilding, aided by technology that seemed like magic, but was in fact the product of human scientific advancement and careful planning. In the Terran Defense Council chamber, Admiral Chen watched the transformation unfold. Send word to the diplomatic corps, he ordered. It's time for the next phase. The Kraxan Empire is finished, but the Kraxan people need not be our enemies. They can be taught a better way. Dr. Santos smiled as new data streamed across her neural interface. The quantum network is already adapting, sir. It's not just a weapon anymore. It's becoming a bridge between civilizations. The Kraxan scientists are beginning to understand the principles behind it. And they're amazed. As they should be, Chen replied. Today marks the beginning of a new era in galactic history. Not one of conquest and subjugation, but of cooperation and shared knowledge. A new dawn. 1 year later, the Great Hall of the Galactic Concordat hummed with activity. Representatives from 20 species, including the newly liberated races, and most surprisingly, the Kraxan themselves, gathered for the historic signing of the Quantum Commonwealth Treaty. Supreme Commander Vex, now serving as the chief diplomat of the reformed Kraxan government, stood at the podium. He looked different now, humbled, but also somehow more dignified than when he had commanded vast fleets of warships. A year ago, I believed strength was measured by the size of one's fleet and the power of one's weapons, he began, his voice carrying across the hushed chamber. Humanity taught us differently. They showed us that true power lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the wisdom to know when not to. Captain Maya Rodriguez of the Copernicus sat in the human delegation, remembering that first encounter that had set everything in motion. The small research vessel that had seemed so vulnerable had actually been the key that unlocked the Kraxan Empire's transformation. Dr. Elena Santos approached the podium next, her neural interface glowing softly as she interfaced with the quantum network that now connected all member species. The Quantum Commonwealth represents more than just an alliance, she explained. It's a fundamental shift in how we understand our place in the universe. The holographic displays around the hall showed the fruits of the past year's cooperation. Kraxan crystalline technology, once used solely for warships, had been adapted for peaceful purposes. Their expertise in materials science, combined with human quantum mechanics, had opened up entirely new fields of study. Admiral Chen watched from his position among the Earth delegates as former enemies became partners in the greatest scientific and cultural exchange in galactic history. The quantum network that had won the war now served as the backbone of an interstellar community. The network adapts and grows stronger with each new perspective added to it, Santos continued. The Exari's biological computing, the Viridian's psychic resonance technology, the Kraxan's crystalline engineering, all of these, combined with human quantum science, are creating possibilities we never imagined. On screens throughout the hall, images showed the transformation taking place across former Kraxan space. The same quantum seeds that had disabled their weapons now powered a renaissance of art, science, and culture. Former warrior castes found new purpose as explorers and researchers. Captain Zhang of the Nightingale, standing at attention near the Earth delegation, caught Vex's eye. The former adversaries shared a moment of understanding. Both had been transformed by the events of the past year. The warrior learning wisdom, the hidden guardian finally stepping into the light. But perhaps the greatest lesson, Vex continued, was learning that humanity's greatest weapon was never their quantum technology. It was their patience, their foresight, and their fundamental belief that even those who appeared as enemies could become friends. The quantum network pulsed with a new kind of energy as representatives from all 20 species stepped forward to sign the treaty. Each signature triggered a cascade of quantum harmonics, weaving their civilizations together at the most fundamental level. Dr. Martinez, no longer playing the role of a simple merchant, stood with his Exari colleagues. We had the power to destroy the Kraxan Empire from the beginning, he explained to Kexri. But that would have only continued the cycle of violence. Instead, we chose a harder path, the path of transformation. As the final signatures were recorded, the quantum network displayed a visualization of their connected civilizations, not as competing empires, but as interconnected nodes in a vast, growing web of cooperation and mutual understanding. Admiral Chen took the podium for the closing remarks. A year ago, humanity revealed itself not as conquerors, but as guardians. Today, we take the next step together. The quantum network that once served as a weapon now binds us together in peace. The technology that could have destroyed civilizations now helps them flourish. The hall erupted in applause as the treaty was formally ratified. The Quantum Commonwealth was born, not through conquest or subjugation, but through the patient application of human ingenuity and the fundamental belief that even the most warlike species could change. In orbit above, the FSS Nightingale maintained its vigilant watch, its quantum drives humming in harmony with the network that now spanned known space. Humanity had emerged from the shadows not to rule, but to guide. They had won not just a war, but a future where strength was measured not in destructive power, but in the ability to build something greater than themselves. The age of empires was over. The age of understanding had begun.